This is the Haulin Assets podcast, where we show you how to start and run your own trucking company. Ever wanted to go out on your own? Follow Chris as he goes through the highs and lows of running on his own authority. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Haulin Assets podcast, episode number 172, and we are talking today about accidents. Chris, I gotta go. I need to change. I am Craig. Over there, he's Chris.
How's it going, Craig?
Oh, not bad. Not
Good.
bad. People would be shocked to learn that we were telling jokes about this already before the mics started. Well, just accidents happen, right?
Accidents happen. They call them that for a reason.
As every parent out there knows.
Yep.
All right, Chris. Yes, we are going to be talking about accidents, how to prevent them, but really I think the meat of this is what to do when something happens.
And this is like a super important episode. Like I can't kind of say this enough, that some of the stuff that you're going to learn today could one day really save your bacon. So, you know, it's one of these topics. It's not the most sexy topic in the entire world, but if you drive a truck, if you own a trucking company, or if you run a trucking company, chances are that at some point in your career, you or a truck that you're responsible for is going to get involved in an accident. And, you know, we want to give you some tips and tricks to make sure you're prepared for that. And that if it does happen, that you are kind of in the best possible position to be able to manage the situation.
Yep. Okay. So before we do, of course, I'll remind everybody about HaulinAssetsLLC.com for full show notes and past episodes. You can also obviously subscribe to us on Spotify or iTunes, whatever that's called these days. I'm just not an Apple guy, Chris.
That's too bad.
Well, what can I say? I'm a decent human being. So where else am I going? HaulinAssetsLLC.com. MotorCarrierHQ.com is where you can go for the tips, tools, and people to help you make that leap from employee driver to owner operator, and get our sweet merch. Now, I'll also mention HaulinAssetsAcademy.com, but more importantly, Chris, we got to come back to the merch, because there's another way that people can get merch, isn't there?
Always.
In about a month or two.
In
right?
about a month or two, I've got a pretty exciting announcement. I'm really kind of super excited about this. I'm going to MATS, the Mid-America Truck Show, biggest truck show in the U.S. It's awesome. I haven't been there for quite a few years, and I've never had a booth. We're going to have a booth. So I'm hoping that we get a chance to meet a lot of our listeners and hopefully gain some new listeners. We're going to be in booth 38549. It's kind of over by the food court. So if you're going to be at MATS, please come check us out. Like I said, I'd love to meet you.
Okay. And I will not be there. So hop on Facebook, search for Haulin Assets, and tag me and say, hey, Craig, I had a really important trucking question for you. Can you please impart your wisdom? And I'll be happy to do so.
Maybe
online.
We'll have to get a cardboard cutout of Craig that we can have standing in the booth with us.
What could go wrong?
No, nothing could go wrong. That would be perfect.
No, I actually don't know, Chris. Are you going to have any merch there? You going to get some Haulin Assets?
We'll have some stuff. Yeah. We haven't decided exactly what it is, but we'll have some goodies.
You know what? Honestly, I said this in the last episode. Take these hats. They're the best hats ever. Good. So I love them. All right, Chris, you also wanted to talk about Crystal's load. Is this, why don't I just let you take it from there? Okay.
Yeah, so we had a load this within the last couple of weeks. It kind of turned into a little bit of a nightmare. You know, there's some things that we probably could have done a little bit different. There's some things the broker and the shipper and the receiver could have done a little bit different. But to make a long story short, driver gets to the loading facility, gets loaded. It takes him a little bit longer than probably should have, gets out a little bit later than should have, runs into really bad traffic. This is going from Pennsylvania to Dallas, and just runs into bad traffic all along the way. You know, early on in this process, we're communicating with the broker that, hey, because of the late load, because of the traffic on that first day, it does not look like we're going to make the appointment. You know, let's get that rescheduled, get it worked out, whatever. Things didn't align. missed the appointment. The receiver, which has got to be like one of the worst receivers we have ever worked with for missing an appointment. We are pretty good at being on time, so we don't deal with it a ton. But in this situation, the receiver's like essentially like freaking pound sand. You guys, we'll give you another appointment in 6 days.
6
days. I'm like, oh my gosh. So this ends up, this was on a Thursday when it was supposed to deliver. They ended up letting us unload on Monday. So the truck sat for almost 4 days.
Sheesh.
And charged a $250 missed appointment fee and a $250 work-in fee because they ended up unloading us on a day that wasn't our appointment. And we're at the point of, okay, so who's going to pay this unloading fee? All these fines before they'll unload us. We ended up paying them, hoping the broker will do the right thing and like split it with us, but I'm not super optimistic about that. So, it's just one of those things that's super frustrating about trucking. Like, again, like this was a tight load to begin with, and a lot of things happened, kind of a perfect storm to make it late, and we're fitting the bill. I mean, that takes any chance of any kind of profit on that load, like gone. Like we're losing money on that load.
What's the incentive from the receiver there? A little charity goes a long way, right? And I get that you don't want companies to abuse that. You want people to make their appointments on time. Okay, fair enough. And I could even see, hey, if you're outside your appointment window, we got to reallocate resources. There's a $250 fine, maybe, but like just freaking unload it, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So what's
absolutely.
The receiver thinking?
I don't know. I kind of wonder if this is because you look at the reviews on the website for this particular receiver, and if you miss an appointment, they're bad. Like this is not just happening to us. It's almost like that's part of their business model. Like, hey, this is an opportunity for us to collect another $500.
Right.
But I don't know. Like
that sounds like a lot of short-term thinking to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. But the problem is their customer is somebody completely different. So that's where like part of the problem with the trucking industry is, we're not a customer of theirs. Like we're handling the product of their customer, but we're not their customer. And so like, they're just like, screw you. I don't care if I ever see you again. Somebody else will haul their load.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it would tick off the customer, not just you, right? The customer's going, hey, they showed up late. Unload them. We need our stuff.
Like we don't want to wait 6 days to get our stuff. But I don't know. Like I just don't like that business practice, that kind of thing where you just jerk to people, and the people that we had to deal with were just like, they were mean and rude.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
When I was building this studio, I might have told this story before. My brother and I were talking about the only thing I contracted out was the mud and tape for the drywall. It's just, that's finesse that I'm happy to farm out, right? And it's a small space, and so I couldn't get like a big company to come out and do it. These ragtag group of guys came out and did it. And they were pretty frustrating to deal with. We were having this conversation about if someone could figure out, like crack the code on the like time management and customer service and price and all that when it comes to contracting and subcontracting, that person would be a billionaire.
Absolutely.
They'd be the next Jeff Bezos, right? If you could crack that code. And anyway, similarly, it just feels like one of those areas where the industry is in its ruts, right? And so you're not just going to bust out of how the industry currently works, but there's got to be a better way with some of these things, right?
For sure.
And who knows what those are? Some genius can email us and then we'll take all the credit.
There you go.
Well, all right, that's frustrating. Chris, though, let's talk about accidents. You ready to dive in on... let me ask you this. Let's open up with what has been your experience either behind the wheel or as the owner of a company. What's the, just give us a couple anecdotes, least and most impactful accidents you've seen so far.
Well, I'm going to I'll answer that in a general term right now, but we'll get into a few of the specifics later on down the road. So, we've been, 11 trucks. we've been in business for, over almost 6 years at this point. So we've obviously had a few little accidents, happy accidents, right? Not happy accidents.
The deer comes to mind from
the
like
deer,
week 1.
Yeah, that's one of them. But so we've dealt with this at this point, and we've learned a lot along the way. And I want to be able to kind of share that information, because what happens in an accident is huge. You think about it. We've all been driving down the road, and we see this billboard on the side of the road that says, "Been hit by a semi? Give us a call." And all that is saying is that those people know that you've been involved in an accident with a semi truck that has a big, huge insurance policy backing it up. And those attorneys have dollar signs in their eyes. And people that are getting in accidents with semis are giving those guys a call. And we've kind of, had some situations where I better understand now how big of an impact that is and the potential impact that could have. And there's some things you can do to set yourself up so that, those attorneys you're not going to be their low hanging fruit, and they're going to they're not going to fight you
against
as
you.
hard because they'll go find somebody else that's a little bit easier target. So a lot of this is just how do you make yourself that more difficult target?
Yeah. So fun story before we continue on with this, that billboard, I am that billboard on Instagram. I don't know if it's running elsewhere, maybe on TikTok and whatnot, but this company hired me to write and film and create these ads for this kind of conglomerate of ambulance chasers. Of course, can't call them that when you're writing the ads. Anyway, part of the contract was we need 3 different ads with all these different specifications, and one of them is going to be about, have you been hit by a commercial vehicle? And you know what I told him? Go pound sand. I'll do all the other ones. That's fine. I'm not going to do that one because I was thinking of this show. I'm like, I can't I can't advertise go sue the pants off truckers or Amazon or whoever.
And
so
and I appreciate that. And if somebody's involved in an accident and they get damaged, there should be reparations for that, right?
Sure.
They should be taken care of. But some of these,
but the punitive stuff,
stuff, and the nuclear lawsuits that are just huge, that's not fair. And one of those, we'll talk a little bit about a situation with one of our trucks as we kind of go on, that just, it's one thing to be made whole. It's another thing to, essentially get ahead or take advantage of a situation.
Well, there you go. All right. So where do you want to start with we want to talk about how to prepare for that situation and then what to do if it occurs. So maybe we start there with the preparation side of things. How do you want to approach that?
So before you get involved in an accident, if you're involved in an accident, you want to have your ducks in a row. You want to make sure your books are clean, everything's clean, so that you're not giving the attorneys an excuse to sue you or give them some kind of a crack in your armor per se, that they can manipulate. So make sure you're following all the FMCSA rules. Your drivers are qualified to drive a truck, and you've got good driver qualification files, that they're all up to date, that your vehicles are maintained, and that you aren't breaking any hours of service rules. The last thing you want is if you're involved in an accident and your driver's been driving too long, even if it's not their fault, that can cause you problems if you've got some kind of violation like that.
If they're 15 minutes over their allotted time for the day, then the lawyers can say, oh, well, they were clearly tired.
Yeah, or if your truck has brakes that aren't quite in reg, and it was an accident that was their fault, that you can still be attributed blame, especially in certain states. When that kind of thing happens. So you just don't want there to be any reason for them to come after you.
It's, we've talked on previous episodes about, safety and regulations and all these things that seem so onerous. And sometimes they are. Let's be honest. Sometimes it's annoying to have to follow all these things. But then as we've talked about them, it becomes clear that while they may seem onerous now, it decreases your risk, it decreases your potential liability, and potentially increases your profit as well. If you're maintaining your fleet, following the regs, all that stuff, it's just not a bad idea to stay within those lines, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, another thing that I think is really important in preparation is you're seeing this more and more, and there used to be some apprehension to do this, but forward-facing cameras at a minimum, if
dash
not
cams.
rear-facing cameras as well. Yeah, so dash cams. It's just one of those things that can protect you and your driver from somebody that's not telling the truth. I've read the statistic changes, so I don't know if this is exactly what it is today, but at times, or at least somewhere around this number, 80% of accidents that involve a commercial motor vehicle are the fault of the non-commercial motor vehicle. So
right.
like somebody in their car.
The people who don't spend all day driving and,
Yeah.
and went to school
they aren't
for
professional drivers,
Right.
right? Yeah. So the dash cam helps that, because oftentimes what you'll see happen is somebody cuts a driver off and something happens in front and the driver can't stop fast enough because he just got cut off by this guy in front of you. And that's really hard to prove unless you've got dash cam.
Or unless you've got me. The only accident I've ever been involved in was when I got hit by a commercial truck. I was driving a school district vehicle. This is back when I was a kid, basically, and cut lawns for the school district. And some jackwad got in front of a cement truck in rush hour, hit the brakes. Cement truck ain't stopping, right? It tries, but then the car takes off before it gets hit. But the Coke truck behind the cement truck hits the cement truck, ricochets into my vehicle. A bunch of 17-year-old kids are screaming their heads off, and I just pull over. And so when the cops got there, he was questioning the cement truck driver. Why did you slam on your brakes? And I went over and said, I'll tell you exactly why he slammed on his brakes.
Yeah.
You'll never find the guy, but it's not his fault.
And if you're lucky, you'll have witnesses like that. But one of the best ways to protect yourselves against those kind of instances is dash cam.
Yep. Hey, I can't be everywhere, Chris. Okay.
I know you can't witness all the accidents.
All right, so you've got your forward-facing camera. You're following all the regulations. All the equipment and the driver stuff is up to date. Okay, everything's looking good. Then an accident happens. Take us through the process. What do you want to do? What's the best practices?
So first and foremost, if you've got a medical emergency or somebody else has a medical emergency, make sure that's taken care of first.
Yeah.
You turn on your hazards, put out your warning triangles or flares or whatever it is that you have in your truck. Make sure you know where they're supposed to go. A general rule of thumb is there should be one 10 feet behind the truck, another one 100 feet behind the truck, another one 200 feet behind the truck. Now that can all change depending on obstacles or whatever that's impeding traffic's view. So if there's a hill or there's a curve, you may need to adjust those. And so just make sure you understand that. Then one of the most important things you or your driver can do on the scene is take lots of pictures. Take pictures from different angles. Make sure you get several pictures where you're a little ways away from the scene so you can capture the entire scene. You're not just taking close-ups of the damage, but you're also taking pictures of the scene so everybody can get a little bit better idea of exactly what's going on there. So also, you want to make sure your drivers provide the information that's required of them, but no more. So answer police officers' questions. Don't volunteer any information to them. People after the accident and everything's all taken care of will probably help coach you through those. If there does need to be more information involved, if there's kind of a follow-on investigation. So only answer the essential questions from law enforcement. Don't volunteer any additional information they're not asking for. Don't talk to the media. Don't sign any documents admitting fault. Don't admit fault. And be cooperative though.
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk, right? You be cooperative. Don't volunteer, right? Keep your answers short. I mean, anybody who's ever been deposed or interrogated for any reason knows kind of these rules, right? Or should. Keep your answers short. Don't volunteer too much. And it's not because you're trying to get away with something. What you're trying to do is limit any potential liability through misunderstanding, right? It's where you accidentally say something that sounds like you're admitting fault. And you go, whoa, I didn't mean that. But you said, right? And so things can come out really easily.
They can. And if you've been involved in an accident, your nerves are going to be on edge. You're probably not going to be thinking you're most clear. And in all honesty, 10 different people can see the same thing and you're going to get 10 different stories. That's just human nature. It doesn't matter if you're in an accident, in a war, in any kind of stressful situation. Everybody's brain processes those things differently. And you kind of need to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point then we've got law enforcement involved. We've taken all the pictures. We've given the statement. Now things are calming down. At what point what's next? Call insurance?
So that's a really good point. That's one of the things that I've kind of, as we've gone through this process a few times, have learned that it is important / critical that you contact your insurance company, whether it's your fault or not, ASAP. And this is one of those things that kind of really helps protect you from those ambulance chasers, is getting your insurance company involved right away, ideally before you've even left the scene, for sure within 24 hours. Most insurance companies have a claims line that you can call or an accident line when there's an accident 24/7. So give them a call as quickly as you possibly can. What that does is, so I'm going to use an incident that we were involved with, and this was actually in a truck stop parking lot, our driver's fault. Backing into a stall, he hit the cab of the truck next to the spot he was trying to back into.
Okay.
Caused a little bit of fender damage. The truck was moving less than 5 miles an hour. Nothing very bad. So we didn't think like this was, super critical. We didn't contact our insurance company right away. In fact, several days had passed before we contacted our insurance company. And to make a long story short, again, this is a less than 5 mile an hour accident, minor damage to the front fender. And the guys end up trying to sue for like $75,000 because he got one of those attorneys. And he trying to take advantage of the system. Like, he didn't get hurt, but he's claiming, back issues and all kinds of things from this 5 mile an hour accident. It's just like you got bumped. And so having talked with the insurance companies about the specific incidents, they say this kind of thing happens more often than you think. We have found
the lawsuit, you mean?
Yeah, that kind of thing where they said that we have found that if we were able to talk to the damaged party super early in the process and get a resolution mapped out, that they're way less likely to go get an attorney. And all that does is typically it enriches the freaking attorneys. Nobody else benefits. So it creates a claim that's significantly more expensive than it needed to be because an attorney's gotten involved when the attorney really doesn't need to get involved. And so, it's critical that you do that to prevent that from happening. Your insurance company, like, I've been pleasantly surprised, like, how helpful the insurance company is through the entire process. They're not yelling at you. They're not screaming at you. Like, they're there to help. They're your advocate. They've got your back. Like, they don't want to pay out anymore either. Exactly. And so it's in everybody's, like, your best interest, their best interest to try to get a quick, good resolution to this situation. And they, they're great to deal with. So use them. They've got their attorneys that are going to be representing you and representing them. And so, get them involved as soon as you possibly can. Yeah.
And, okay, so that would be a minor fender bender parking lot situation. But obviously accidents run the gamut, right? I told the story about the car full of Texans that I saw die. That was awful. But in between that somewhere, there are more common accidents. So you told me the story once about the blown steer tire.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me again, refresh my memory.
It's just like one of those things that it kind of blows my mind.
And your tires.
And your tires, yeah. So we have a driver driving along, doing his thing, blows a steer tire, 70 miles an hour on the interstate, 65, 70, something like that, going fast. Not speeding, just going the speed limit, but that's pretty fast to be blowing a steer tire in a semi-truck.
Sure.
Gets off to the road safely, when it left, tire on the roadside, and another car ends up running over the steer tire and get some damage on their car from it. And, trying to hold us liable for that. Well, and it's hard to say like that. The police officer cited our driver. Like, how can you, a blown tire is going to happen. Like, you can't prevent that, whether in your commercial vehicle. Like, this was not a super old worn out tire, that just a tire that failed, and no fault of the drivers. But the police officer cited our driver for that. And, now this person has an attorney. Like, what are you suing a trucking company for on this kind of a thing? Like, it's caused damage to your car. Maybe, okay, we need to pay for the damage, but now you're going to sue for
tens of thousands.
Extra money that is not really like it's more than making you whole, right? Like getting an attorney involved, probably 5 hours of attorney fees is way more than the cost of the actual damage. And this is a situation where we did all the right things. Like, we contacted our insurance company. I think this is one we'd contacted before we even left the scene, because the person that ran over the steer tire was causing an absolute stink at the scene. So anyway.
Okay. Well, so what I'm hearing then, I know we're going to kind of start to wrap this up. What I'm hearing is prepare yourself by following all the regs, maintaining your equipment, hiring good drivers, having your systems and equipment looking spotless, right? Yeah. To the extent possible. Then when something does happen, be cooperative with law enforcement, but not to, volunteering. Don't overshare, right? Don't run your mouth, right? That's too many cop shows I've been watching. And then lastly, contact insurance as quickly as possible. Try to find a resolution as quickly as possible so that things don't spiral, if at all possible, right? And
that's probably, if there's one thing that I want people to get out of this episode, it's that. Contact your insurance company quickly.
Okay.
Super quick.
Now, this is kind of a general guideline, right? We could talk all day long about what to do in a specific type of accident involving multiple vehicles, or winter conditions, or whatever the case may be. There's a million different permutations of this, right? But we're not doing the nitty gritty on every type of accident, right? So,
no.
How do you want to wrap this up then?
So I'd just say one more point I want to make is just there's post-accident. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen as well. I don't want to cover that in this episode. Maybe we'll have an episode sometime in the future about what you need to do after an accident. But, again, this is one of the things where insurance company can be super helpful. They typically have checklists of, here are the things that you need to do. Make sure you do all these things. And so I just recommend contact your insurance company, ask them if they can give you a little bit of help or ideas or tips or tricks on what to do to make sure you just dot all your I's and cross all your T's when you're involved in an accident, and get that baby put to bed as soon as you can.
Okay. And if you do have more questions about a specific instance that you're involved in, a specific accident, the insurance company is going to point you in all the right directions, right?
Yep.
They've got all the context. They've got all the resources.
They've been through this before. They've got teams that this is what they do all day, every day. They're experts at it. Lean on them as much as you can.
It reminds me a little bit, Chris, of Motor Carrier HQ, where you can go, motorcarrierhq.com, where they've seen everything and know everything and know everybody, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding.
I mean,
but...
we do. You don't need to kid. It's real.
No, it's a good concept to remember that you are an expert in certain areas, and you should remember that and lean on yourself. If you're a great driver, then be a great driver. And if there are things about being a business owner that you're not as expert as, whether it's bookkeeping or dealing with an accident or whatever the case may be, there are experts out there who you can lean on. You don't have to figure it all out yourself. You don't have to reinvent every wheel, blown or not. Right? Yeah. So I think it's a really good lesson to take as a business owner generally. And in this case, yeah, the insurance company, they take a lot of bad hits in the media and popular culture and all that. But ultimately, yeah, they're experts in what they do. Use them.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, Chris, any final thoughts?
Yeah. Reminder. Matt's Mid-America Truck Show, March 27th. So it's Thursday, March 27th through Saturday, March 29th. We're going to be there. Come visit us. We'd love to see you. Booth 38, 549, over by the food court. Love to meet you, shake your hand, and tell you thanks for listening. So swing by.
38549. Don't forget it. It's
38549.
It's going to be the 38,000 section, I imagine.
Yes.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you all next time.
See ya.